Hi, I'm Conor Kehoe. I'm an OYAP coordinator at the Ottawa Carleton District School Board in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and you're listening to the Tools of the Trade monthly Toolbox Talk.
Welcome, please welcome
to another episode of the Tools of the Trade podcast, your number one construction industry resource. Hear conversations with industry professionals to get the tools, stories, and advice that you need to set your career on fire. You're now streaming the Tools of the Trade podcast.
Hey guys, this podcast segment, the monthly Toolbox Talks, would not be possible without our presenting sponsor, the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. The Canadian Apprenticeship Forum is a national, not-for-profit organization working with apprenticeship stakeholders in all regions of Canada. As the national voice for the apprenticeship community, they really bring together stakeholders from across the trades and sectors to share information and promising practices, identify challenges, and propose joint solutions. The Canadian Apprenticeship Forum influences apprenticeship strategies through research, discussion, and collaboration. The research agenda and events provide stakeholders with accurate, unbiased insight into apprenticeship challenges and barriers and illustrates the substantial benefits of hiring and training apprentices. That's super important. The benefits of hiring and training apprentices in a market that is experiencing labor shortages right now. I think this is huge. Representatives of business, labor, educators, equity-seeking groups, and jurisdictional apprenticeship authorities are among the key stakeholders who support the CAF operations through membership. From their landmark $1.47 return on training investment research and 2019's labor market information report, apprentice demand in the top 10 Red Seal trades, to initiatives such as the Apprentices in Canada e-panel, National Apprenticeship Conference, and Supporting Women in Trades Conference, their work continues to provide Canada with the resources and opportunities to collaborate that the skilled trades community needs. For more information, visit caf-fca.org. That's caf-fca.org. And now on to today's guest. What's going on, friends? Thank you so much for tuning into episode number 8 of this June edition of the Tools of the Trade monthly Toolbox Talks presented by the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum. I am your host, Colin Toop, and in this Toolbox Talk segment, I sat down with Conor Kehoe, a stonemason who got his start in the trade working on West Block of Parliament in Ottawa, Canada, which houses the House of Commons. Very cool project. I think it was the largest in North America at the time. Ton of stone on this building, and he had his piece on the wall there. So fantastic story. Conor has since moved into an educational role as an OYAP coordinator, which stands for Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. So OYAP, we say it a lot in the podcast. That's what it stands for. He's a coordinator with them with the Ottawa Carleton District School Board, where he uses his knowledge and passion for construction to assist our youth in navigating apprenticeship while ensuring they have the resources they need to choose the correct skilled trades pathways. In this Toolbox Talk, we get into the following: what it was like to switch careers somewhat later in life, according to him, and become a stonemason, how Conor went into the educational side of the industry, apprentice success stories, optics, issues in construction, youth apprenticeship programs, and much, much more. To get in touch with Conor, pop over to toolspodcast.com for links to all of the OYAP social pages and anything else that we had mentioned in this episode. And for more information about innovation and adolescent learning or experiential learning, visit ocdsbxl.com. That's ocdsbxl.com. Now, please join me in welcoming the selfless stonemason, Conor Kehoe. Conor, thanks for joining me on the monthly Toolbox Talk. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Colin. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy that we could squeeze this in before the end of the school year. I think it's going to be an important message that we are delivering here. So I really appreciate you taking time on a Sunday to sit down with me and have this conversation and get it going last minute. I'm happy we could do it. So the best place to start here is to just introduce yourself, let people know who you are, where you work, what you do, and give us a bit of detail on how that whole thing looks.
Okay, my name is Conor Kehoe. I'm a Red Seal stonemason by trade. I'm now part of the Innovation and Adolescent Learning Department, working for the Ottawa Carleton District School Board as an OYAP coordinator. And for those who might not know, OYAP is the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. And the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program is a school to work program that kind of opens the door for students to explore and work in apprenticeship occupations while they're working on completing their secondary school diplomas. A big thing is promoting the skilled trades as a first choice pathway to not only students, but parents and teachers, and explaining how employers can benefit from this program. We provide discovery experiences for students of all ages in a variety of trades. We help them get experience in the skilled trades in hands-on settings and help them get work ready, whether that's sponsoring them for the cost of boots and PPE or tools or certifications, working at heights, that kind of thing. As students progress, we help them engage with employers and the skilled trades jobs that can see them go from high school directly into the workforce with registered training agreements and just a big head start with your apprenticeship hours already being counted. And that way you can really hit the ground running when you enter into the workforce.
No kidding. So, just out of curiosity, how does that look like in a practical sense? If you are providing education and training and you're getting these kids involved in high school, let's say grade 11, grade 12, what does that look like in a typical school week? Like, are they going to courses? Like, what does it look like exactly?
Well, there's a few really strong examples that we have in the OCDSB, and it's really great to have these programs where they are now. I know that a colleague of mine, Candace Carson, has spent kind of years setting this up. So it didn't always look like this, but we're kind of gaining momentum here. So we've got a really strong partnership with UBC Local 93, the Carpenters Union in Ottawa, and the OCDSB. So we have home construction courses running out of some secondary schools where we have industry partners, Mattamy Homes,
Yep.
opening up their site to a secondary school program that is house construction. So the students will have kind of an in-class safety certification, a few weeks to take care of what you need to take care of to be safe on site. And then the rest of the learning will actually take place on the site. We have students working with their teacher to actually build on Mattamy Home sites. So that's, a graded high school course. You can earn credits for it that will go to your high school diploma. But if you have students that are really kind of finding that they are motivated by it, it's their passion, they then become kind of committed to becoming a carpenter. Well, the UBC Local 93 has kind of opened the door there for students to go directly from this house construction program and go into a signed registered training agreement with the union. So not only will you be kind of learning in a classroom environment how to build a house, but you can start counting your hours towards an apprenticeship in carpentry. Each relationship will kind of be different for each trade, but normally, or the way that it's shaping up, is that we'll have kind of a classroom experience that is very hands-on. It's basically as real as you can get compared to the industry.
Right.
You're just still in high school. So we have that with the Ontario Masonry Training Center as well. They've upgraded a classroom at the Ottawa Technical Secondary School. That's an amazing campus. It's basically like, it very closely resembles the facilities that people in the industry will go to the Ontario Masonry Training Center to get their level 1 or level 2 when they're trying to go through the schooling part of their apprenticeship.
Right.
And that's the same kind of conditions that we're trying to create in the high school. and then you're helping those graduating students kind of get their registered training agreements taken care of, and start counting their hours.
That's amazing. So I'm just picturing, starting as early as grade 11 and then like banking all those hours towards your apprenticeship. You're coming out like super far ahead of the game, like even more further ahead than you normally would be just from being in trades in general, because that's one of the benefits that I see is you're able to bank all these hours right out of high school with virtually no student loans, and you're getting training right away, whereas other people that choose other professions may have to take a longer approach to education with no guaranteed job at the end. So being able to get in even earlier by a couple of years is just mind blowing. Like you could be a journey person by what, the age of
2021.
that's insane.
Yeah, it is. And I wish I had that in my high school growing up. It might have kind of created a whole different trajectory into the trades, especially if for people who may need a bit of support getting through the technical things that you got to take care of to get an apprenticeship started,
Yeah.
or working at heights, or your forklift card, whatever it is, you kind of have a little bit of support and some help from people that can help you sort out those details, rather than just kind of finishing high school then trying to break into the trade on your own. It can be a bit more challenging, so it's a great thing to be able to provide that to students, and the support of the industry is essential, and it makes a difference. Just in those two examples alone, it impacts. You can feel there's kind of a culture of people who are, yeah, I'm taking house construction, I'm going for my apprenticeship. It gives that confidence of kind of knowing what you're aiming for. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So for those listening, your story is very unique. You are obviously a Red Seal stonemason, and now you are on the education side of things. So I wanted to break down a little bit more of your career and how you got to where you are, basically. So you mentioned to me that you got into skilled trades a little bit later in life. And I wanted to know if trades were actually on your radar prior to that, and kind of how you formulated the decision and ended up choosing construction as your second or alternate career path in your life.
Yeah, I mean, trades were always on my radar, but not necessarily in a professional setting. I have family members, and we'd always be working on a house or setting up something at the cottage, uncles, my dad, grandparents. Like, it was always on my radar, but definitely a huge difference from kind of working on projects with your family or people from your social circle to doing it kind of in an industry setting. So I had always worked landscaping or carpentry kind of as a way to provide secondary income if I really needed it, especially living in Toronto, the odd time you need cash for rent. So you work a job, and that's not necessarily anything close to an apprenticeship, but I do have some experience in residential construction. But I got to kind of a point where I was like, I've worked all sorts of different jobs, kind of jack of all trades, master of none. And the opportunity to work on the West Block rehabilitation project came up.
What is the West Block for anybody listening? Can you explain what West Block is for somebody that may not know?
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2011, I believe, the project officially began, and that was to repair the West Block Parliament building, which now houses the House of Commons in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And at one point, it was the largest construction project going in North America. And it went from 2011, and I believe completion of the visitor center happened in 2019. So as a stonemason, I got taken on by a company, RJW Stonemasons Inc., they took me on as an apprentice.
Why stonemasonry? They're like, well, there's a piece missing here to me, and I want to know, like, how did you decide that it was that you wanted to do, or was it by chance?
There was definitely a little bit of random involved.
Yeah,
I feel like landscaping, it was something that I always kind of really enjoyed for no apparent reason. Like laying fieldstone or going to finish a wall in somebody's garden, just even kind of lifting a huge concrete piece in with someone else. Like I found that satisfying and I didn't really notice it.
yeah,
So I definitely needed a job. I needed a change in my life. And I got lucky in a couple of different ways. Also, I completed my security clearance and got that. It made me able to work on the hill. And let me tell you, like when I started, I thought, I've worked construction, I can do this kind of thing. How hard can it be?
yeah.
And there's a huge difference between just the act of construction and the industry of construction. So I got on the West Block, and basically you're just learning everything. Learning a new trade can be overwhelming, and I would definitely say that that was my experience for the first few months. I learned that you don't really know what you're doing
Yeah.
on a site that large. There's safety. You have to learn kind of the language of very specialized terms when it comes to dealing with stone. Like there's a lot of words that are from 17th, 18th, 19th century England. Like sometimes you really don't know what people are talking to you about. So there's so much to learn. It can be physically demanding. So, in that first kind of month, your hands are sore. You don't know much. So you're usually doing kind of more labor intensive work. But I don't know, somewhere in all that challenge, like for me, I had a question of, I don't know if I can do this. But then at the same time, I was so motivated by the challenge and I loved the work. You get kind of on a job of the West Block size and just the way that it was on site. You could work 7 to 5, 5 days a week. The demand was there, so I got into a routine. I started to learn, and I really enjoyed just everything about the job. There was some sacrifice that you have to put in, but I loved working with that big a crew. There would be amazing times where you could hear almost 200 people with hammer and chisel in the courtyard of the West Block where the House of Commons now sits. And we got to work on those walls. And, you start to learn very slowly. But after about a year, I was like, wow, I really enjoy this. And I just want to learn everything. I was totally kind of motivated by learning how to cut stone, how to calculate, how to build, how to restore. We cleaned the walls with laser cleaners that were imported from Germany. You're doing some really amazing stuff, and there's a learning aspect to everything. I had to learn how to kind of up my game when it came to work ethic. I learned work ethic, I learned humility. When there's a guy who's telling you how to lay brick and he's laid over 1 million in his life, like you're gonna listen.
Yeah, no kidding.
A female colleague of mine, Colleen Wilson, she was a stone carver and started to show me kind of some of the basics there. And, she carved the lion on top of the coat of arms at the east entrance, all those kinds of pieces. I don't know. There is a challenge. There's some sacrifice to be made, but I just found it totally stimulating and motivating.
That's amazing. It sounds like, I haven't really thought about stonemasonry ever, to be honest, as a trade. It's something I've seen before in small ways, mainly bricklayers here that are just laying orange brick. But being involved in a project like the size of West Block, and like you mentioned, the artistic side of things where you're carving a lion into a coat of arms or whatever, like that sounds pretty amazing to me. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the Pyramid of Giza or the Mayan pyramids? Do you have any thoughts on how they were built, or do you appreciate like the architecture of those massive stone structures?
I am totally appreciative of them. There's like a one stat that I find amazing. So from the base of the Pyramid of Giza to the very peak, I think it's over 100 meters long. And using whatever technology they were using, from the base to the peak, it's only 0.75 inches off. So over that whole run, the amount of precision and the amount of work, the scale of it, I totally appreciate it. And that's kind of one of those things that I love about stonemasonry. So we would be using laser levels at the hill and very tightly specced mud, mortar. I mean, they were even laser imaging some of the sculptural pieces that we were restoring. But at the same time, you're using plug and feathers to split stone that's coming directly from the quarry. And plug and feathers is a technology that the Egyptians used to split stone. You make a hole in the stone, and then you put kind of a series of holes all along a stone. I'm sure you can look it up on YouTube. There's clips of people splitting huge stones with a hammer and just a few plug and feathers. And
Crazy.
where you're still using that technology, but there's also modern aspects to it. So yeah, I mean, I could go on forever.
Yeah. So obviously, at some point, it seems like you've had a sort of a few critical junctures in your life. You went from, you said master of none to master of stonemasonry, and then you transition into the educational side of things. And I was hoping that you could walk me through what inspired you, or what moment kind of made you realize that it was time for you to start mentoring and educating and pushing more kids and youth into these programs that you've benefited so much from in your life. Like, what did that process look like? Maybe what was going on in your mind at that point in time?
Well, I'll just put an asterisk. I can't call myself a master yet. There's a few people in front of me in that line,
Okay.
but I do feel like eventually I got to the point where I had the privilege of representing the company I was working for, and I was supported by the Ontario Masonry Training Center. They were kind of having me do these public appearances and going to speak to students just to kind of help promote the pathway and the trade. And I was encouraged by a colleague of mine, Candace Carson. She encouraged me to get more into that youth promotion of the pathway side. And eventually, I finished my Red Seal certification, and the Department of Innovation and Adolescent Learning at the Ottawa Carleton District School Board, where I now work, they kind of took the innovative step of bringing someone in from the trades to help promote the trades within that school board. So I had some public speaking and youth experience there and had done many presentations, but it was just kind of a conversation, and it happened really naturally. It wasn't necessarily a moment that said I have to do this. It was more of a natural progression. And I'm very grateful for the OCDSB and for the people that kind of pushed me into basically helping students and pay it forward. It feels great to help some students out who may never have known about the trades, or who may never have kind of really looked at high school as the right time to get into them.
hmm Do you think that that's the most gratifying part of the job? Because it's like being in education is a very selfless career path. You're putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort into kids to make them better, and it's very selfless. So, would you say that that piece is the most gratifying to you? Is seeing what these kids become, or the inspiration, or
For sure, I would say that there's a whole side to the job that, like, when we're doing our events, sometimes I'll see a few moments of discovery or when the light goes on for someone.
Yeah.
We're doing a women in trades event at Ottawa Technical Secondary School, and there was an 11-year-old girl who was all set up with her welding mask, her right PPE, there with a woman from the Metal Workers Union 765. And, this young girl was kind of like, am I really going to do this right now? And with the industry mentor right beside her, she kind of took her through the steps. And by the end, she had cut a piece of steel with a torch, with her teachers kind of looking on. And the look of kind of satisfaction slash confidence, excitement, happiness, it's those kinds of moments that you see. And it feels great to be a small part of that process, whatever my part is there. And there's a whole bunch of other success stories that I've been able to just come across over the year. And it's, as I said, I naturally progressed towards this, but it's been an amazing experience so far.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. Thank you for giving back. I think you're doing a great job. There's two people's names you left for me that I wanted to ask you about here. One of them is Sincere McNabb, and the other one is McKenna Goodwin. And I was hoping that you could tell me who these people are and give me a bit of context.
Of course. So Sincere McNabb, he is a student that even in the first 2 or 3 weeks of me starting my job, we were kind of tasked with a way to make more success stories visible, because sometimes there's all this success going on in the education world, and almost as an echo to the construction industry, sometimes you're so busy doing the work that you forget to kind of promote the positive stories that are coming out of the work.
Yeah.
So Sincere McNabb, he's originally from Treaty 4, number 88, Kawakatoos First Nation in Saskatchewan. He's living in Ottawa and was going to school, and his kind of Indigenous education coordinator, Chris Mwasigi, told me about him, and he was like, listen, Sincere is a guy who was not necessarily having the best success at high school, and he got himself into the Ontario Masonry Training Center to do his level 1 apprenticeship, and it had such a positive impact on his life. Now Sincere is a level 1 apprentice working in Ottawa as brick and stone mason's apprentice. He's financially supporting his family. He's completely changed his life around and really hitting stride. I was happy to meet him, and I was very grateful that he shared his story with us. So if you go on to ocdsbxl.com, you can read a whole article about him as a featured apprentice and just one example of success from the district. Exactly the kind of story that makes you feel good to provide those kinds of opportunities. And I'm very happy for this student that he's, fully taken advantage of that and really running with it.
Yeah.
McKenna Goodwin, she was a student in the OYAP program in the house construction class. She became a level 1 apprentice and is now actually working on center block as a member of UBC Local 93, the Carpenters Union. And she won the Weston Scholarship Award from Algonquin College, and is just another example of someone who was just, very passionate about carpentry and kind of started slowly getting into it and then really hit her stride, and now is just working, getting her hours, really thriving. I spoke to her and she says she loves the job. She loves the walk to Parliament Hill. And, it's just those are just two success stories of students that really kind of take advantage of that OYAP program opportunity and really run with it when they get to a good place. So I'm just happy to kind of highlight their stories, and hopefully there's more of those on the way.
Yeah, is her bio online as well?
Absolutely. We've got a number of different kind of examples of student apprentices on ocdsbxl.com, and any kind of awards or recognition, we'll always do our best to highlight them there.
Awesome. So I will link to anything that we do mention on toolspodcast.com for anybody listening. So in case you want to go check out any success stories yourself or see what's going on, those links will be available. I want to ask you a question. So obviously I come from BC, that's where I was born and raised, and I went through the BC apprenticeship program, and we had something in high school that was called ACE. I believe it was called the ACE program. And what that essentially was allowing kids to get involved in similar things. You could get a co-op program going, and you would spend basically half the year in school learning the courses that were mandatory, such as English and math, and then you'd spend the other half of the year out in the field doing whatever it is. Some kids chose construction, some chose landscaping, and it was really dependent. But I was wondering if like this OYAP style program, it seems like you guys are doing it in a major way. Do you know if it's available in other provinces in Canada, like similar things? Is there similar arms to it? Are you guys connected with anybody else?
Right now, it's a province wide thing. It is through the co-op program, and my understanding of it is basically kind of confined to the province of Ontario.
Right.
I do know that I've met a number of people from different provinces at the Canadian Apprenticeship Forum that are working on very similar programs. I don't want to go out and say they're exactly the same, but there's colleagues in different provinces doing parallel work. I think that the message and the goal is the same. And I've heard of amazing stories from all over the province because of the CAF.
Yeah, that's definitely a great organization. I wanted you to tell me a little bit about something you've mentioned to me a few times now, which is the lack of visibility into skilled trades. I think the way you said it to me on the phone the other day was along the lines of you can't see what's going on behind the fence in construction, and that helps, or I guess it shields what's really going on for people to have the perception or be able to see all of the success and all of the little details that go on the job site. So you talk to me a little bit more about what you mean with the barrier of visibility.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a requirement to have the fence there in the real world, and people have to sign NDAs. There's safety requirements, and those kinds of things obviously take priority. But I think that it's already changed a bit, because I can see a lot more videos online of some pretty amazing things that are going on sites all over Canada. And I just think that if we want to reach youth, we need to kind of make room for them as part of that process. So, in all of the events and workshops and anything that I'm doing as an OYAP coordinator, I'm always trying to get student voice. We're always trying to show students who are successful apprentices, or maybe they're trying a trade for the first time. We had a woman in trades day at the Ottawa Technical Secondary School, and it was all about these highlights of there were students who were doing barbering, they were learning how to cut hair, there was chef workshops, electrician, welding, masonry, so those kinds of moments that I collect or highlight after our events are very impactful, because students can kind of see themselves there. So if there's a way to kind of make room for that kind of thing from behind the fence, I think that's really important for the world to see. The stigma around construction is changing slowly, I think if we show kind of how interesting and how kind of technologically advanced or rewarding some of the construction and the builds, I can think of thousands of moments from my own career that I really do wish we had a slow-mo clip of.
You chiseling a block in half or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I mean, even just like when they were putting the glass dome over the House of Commons now, that was cordoned off, we're tied off, you have training to go across it, but that was like how I walked to work. You walk to work over the glass dome 50 feet above the floor of the House of Commons. There's people who have to go up to the very top of the West Block and carefully fold the copper flashing into the stone where we were working, So I know there's people welding underwater somewhere right now.
Yeah.
There's people kind of walking across a bridge to put the last rivet in and then open it up to the public. I mean, it's those kind of moments that can show the diversity and the family of trades and all the activity that goes with it. And for sure, the more that we can kind of highlight and showcase that, it will give students just an example. It'll put it in front of them. Think of all the visuals and ads and all the things that you see on Instagram. If we really want to call out to the next generation, I think we've got to make a concerted effort to try and be in that window.
Yes. I 100% agree. Now, one thing that's coming to mind here is, you can take the approach that you've taken in your career, which is to give back by actually joining the education force and deploying your skills there to help motivate people. And this is just a broad statement that applies to people in general, is that they either think there's enough people helping already, I don't need to do anything, it's fine. Or if we're in a skilled trades shortage, what is one person like me really going to do to help change things or help solve some of these issues that we're facing? So I was curious what you think somebody on an individual level, like somebody like myself, could do to help influence the younger generation or to help spotlight their industry. Does anything come to mind that somebody can do on a personal level to help start the conversation or help starting to show what's really going on out there?
I mean, personally, I would say the most impactful thing is kind of being open to something that is maybe not traditionally associated with the trades. I'm putting on this event for thousands of Ottawa Carleton District School Board students. And at certain times, you're desperate for someone to just say yes to coming to your event.
Yeah.
Luckily, we had people, I feel like I should list them all, but it's IBEW, it's Smart Local 47, UBC Local 93, OMTC. You have people from those unions showing up with full gear. Their time is being paid for by the union, and they're coming to share their knowledge and an hour or 2 hours of time with students. And that's really where the impact was greatest for me. We were lucky to be part of the Ottawa Construction Association trade show and symposium. The OCA kind of made room for a whole youth engagement zone. And that was over 20 different members of the OCA, various trade unions and companies. And they came ready, like the amazing thing was when teachers and parents and students all arrived at this space and saw how much work and time and, there were huge cranes and bulldozers, and there was virtual reality welding or heavy machinery.
Cool.
People could climb the scaffold, lay a brick, run a camera down a pipe, wire up a light, and all kind of supported with young apprentices or training coordinators that are like, hey, come on over here. This is how you do this. This is called tiling. This is called whatever. PCL had a at an amazing like laser imaging and drone navigation station set up. Tomlinson, when you have companies kind of show a real commitment and show what is possible in their industry, in their area, that is what actually leaves teachers and students kind of talking after it. It really impacts them. And if we can do it in the real world, that is the most important thing. And then B, if you can have some kind of way to document that and promote it and offer a call, kind of like what you're doing right now, by linking students or parents or anyone listening who is interested to what I'm doing, that connects us. It just adds to the momentum. So I think it's being open and just kind of being helpful and just helping people find what interests them. That's what I love about the trades. There's something for everyone, and it will look different for everyone.
Yeah, you got that right. Education and apprenticeship programs. Where do you think these programs are headed in the future? I mean, obviously, right now, coronavirus has caused a lot of students to be learning from home. So there's going to definitely start to be more of an online piece to education. And then obviously these programs are still growing simultaneously, and you want to have these in-person events. So what do you think the future looks like for these programs and training and education in general?
Well, I think that, like anything, unforeseens will come up on a job, and you have to find a way to work it out.
Hmm.
So I think that's what's happening right now. There's alternative means. I know that we've gone to a blended learning environment as kind of our model, where students can do online training with industry professionals and kind of get their credentials and the work that they can pursue on their own, that will be done. The work that needs to be assisted by their teacher or by industry professionals, we'll do as much as we can via Zoom meeting, what we're doing right now.
Yep.
And I feel like the safety first will really kind of dictate the momentum of what happens going forward. But I really feel that everyone I know in the trades has worked throughout it. So I feel like that's something that will have to be negotiated carefully and obviously kind of at the prompting of the right ministry, right public health officials, and we'll follow their cues. But I feel like any person who wants to get into the trades will find a way to do it, and we will find a way to help them. Short of kind of sending people to work on job sites before it's safe, I don't think that will happen,
Right.
because student safety is kind of, that's the priority. But there's a number of different ways that we're helping right now to do these certifications and blended learning. And I feel that if we have to wait patiently until it's safe to continue our face-to-face learning and the opportunities there, I don't think that that's an unreasonable thing to do. And it's better to be safe than to be sorry in this case.
For sure. Connor, is there anything that we've left out of the conversation that you think is important to talk about with youth apprenticeship or anything related to construction or trades in the industry?
I think that the key is to continue to help destigmatize the trades as career choices. One thing that I always hear at OYAP is a first choice pathway. So the same kind of messaging for students who are being told to go into post-secondary institutions, the same messaging will apply to those students when it comes to the skilled trades. And I don't think it's one pathway is better than the other. I think it's find what drives you, what motivates you, find what your passion is, and try the skilled trades to discover that. I want to help students discover which trade they love. I want to help them experience something more in depth than just a workshop. And if it really is something that they want to pursue as a career, I want to help them engage with it and talk to the right people and get into the industry, you know?
Yeah, it's too bad because I'd say, in the last 5, 6 interviews I've had with people that found their way into construction somehow in their life, usually by falling into it, they all say the same thing to them and to their parents and to their friends and their peers. It was not a first choice pathway. For them, it was a backup plan. If you can't hack it in university, you can always go get a trade. And I think you're right. That perception needs to change. And I think that, we're all working towards that common mission. I think what one might call blue collar optics of the industry or the dirty side of construction. I think obviously there is a dirty side to construction depending on which pathway you do choose, and that's your choice. But there is so much more to it than that. There's so much available. I hope that we can all do our part in changing those optics, in bringing more people into the industry, in just, having conversations with youth and letting them know what it is that you do and what you enjoy and why. And I think you're doing a great job. Is there anything that you'd like to ask of people, anybody that's made it this far in the podcast that's listening? Is there anything you'd like to ask them to do or any calls to action for anybody?
Yeah, I would like people to go to at OYAP_Ottawa on Twitter or Instagram and check out some of the content, some of the stories that we're carrying from the year. OCDSBXL.com is also a blog run by the Department of Innovation and Adolescent Learning at the OCDSB. And enjoy our stories. If you have any of your own, if you're curious about any of the programs, reach out. And the call to action that I would just like to repeat is to be part of a community. For me, as an OYAP coordinator, I'm trying to create a space at the OCDSB where students, parents, teachers, and industry can all kind of come together. And I really feel that all of those elements will benefit the momentum, it'll benefit the message, it'll find out really what motivates the students. And together is always better than working alone. And I would say that, I just want to thank all the people that have helped me kind of get to where I am. The Canadian Apprenticeship Forum, I feel, is like one of those community hubs for educators, for industry, for tradespeople, all those kinds of elements that are all working on promoting the skilled trades, like what you're doing right now with the podcast. It's important. And really, the call to action is for everyone to come together and just keep putting the work in.
I love it. Connor, this has been amazing. I really appreciate everything that you're doing for our industry, for our youth, that you've taken the selfless path and decided that you wanted to give back. It's amazing. And I'm just blown away at how much you've put in. And I'm really grateful to have you in our industry helping our youth. I think it's amazing. Is there any other places that you'd like to point people to? Any other websites, any other resources? And where's the best place for people to get in contact with you if maybe they have any questions?
Well, DM at OYAP_Ottawa on Twitter is probably the best way to communicate with the public at large.
And OYAP is OYAP for anybody listening.
That's
Yeah.
correct. And I would say that's the best place to kind of communicate with the public at large. If you are a student, parent, guardian, teacher of the Ottawa Carleton District School Board, you just have to look up my name on your Word email and I should come in the window there. Feel free to message me at any time. Really, OCDSBXL.com is our department's blog. So please write in with any queries if you're not on Twitter for any reason. Short of giving out my home phone number, I think I'll stop there though.
Yeah, sounds good. You don't want a bunch of after hours phone calls coming in.
Depends how the interview went.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, Connor, this has been great, man. Thanks again for joining me on this Sunday morning. We're going to try and get this episode out as fast as we can. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Hey, thank you for the time, Colin. And I have great respect for what you're doing with the podcast. I appreciate the platform.
Likewise. Awesome.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap, everybody.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Tools of the Trade podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. For show notes, blog posts, resources, and access to our newsletter, check out toolspodcast.com.